On September 27th of 2020, Azerbaijan launched a full-scale military assault on Armenia. You may have heard of this through stories on various news networks such as CNN and BBC, but the information remains largely vague. This video will explain the context behind the recent fighting, which has already claimed hundreds of lives. The fighting is the result of a territorial dispute surrounding the land of Artsakh, a land to the east of Yerevan, also known as Karabakh or Nagorno-Karabakh. The region has belonged to Armenia for a millennium. The Armenians who inhabited the region remained fiercely independent. So, what is the reason behind the territorial dispute? In the years leading up to 1920, the Bolsheviks grew paranoid, fearing that the subject states of the Soviet Union would end up revolting against them. To prevent this from happening, Stalin formed his divide and conquer policy. Stalin looked to ignite fires between the subject states of the Soviet Union, inspiring conflict between them in order to prevent them from uniting and revolting together. One of these fires was waiting between Armenia and Azerbaijan. In November of 1920, seemingly without any warning, Stalin made the decision to hand over Artsakh, a region of Armenia, to Azerbaijan, officially recognizing the region as a part of Azerbaijan. Any civilians in Artsakh that protested this event were met with massacres carried out by the Azeri army, which resulted in the deaths of over 20,000 Armenian civilians. However, the population of the region remained almost completely ethnically Armenian, and that is the way things stayed for the next 68 years. In February of 1988, Armenians expressed their desire for freedom. Protesting Soviet and Azeri oppression, they demanded independence and that Artsakh be joined to Armenia. Following a democratic referendum held in Artsakh, in which 99% of the population voted to become a part of Armenia, or at least to create an independent state, the parliament of Artsakh declared itself to be an independent republic. A few days later, as a response to this referendum, Azerbaijan was furious and began to massacre all its Armenian minorities present in their cities. In what is commonly referred to as the Sumgait pogroms, the Azeri government encouraged their people to attack Armenians and their property, predominantly in cities such as Sumgait and Baku. Later that same year, a disastrous earthquake struck the northern part of Armenia. The Soviets were all out of resources to help, and Turkey and Azerbaijan prevented humanitarian aid from entering Armenia by blockading the country. This resulted in the deaths of over 40,000 Armenians. After the Armenian minorities in Azerbaijan were crushed, the Azeri army began making their way to Artsakh in order to massacre the population there once again and achieve utter control over the region. When the Azeri army began invading Artsakh later in 1988, they were resisted by the 170,000 Armenians living in Artsakh, who were mostly just farmers with nothing more than Soviet-grade pistols. At first, Azeri forces pushed the Armenians back. But by 1993, the Armenians of Artsakh were more organized, had better weapons, and pushed the Azeris back. Access between Armenia and Artsakh was re-established, which meant support for the Armenians of Artsakh. Armenian forces then pushed into the regions surrounding Artsakh in order to create a buffer zone. After rallying its forces and purchasing mercenary aid, Azerbaijan launched a second offensive. This too was unsuccessful. Armenian military figures such as Monte Melkonyan and the White Bear, Karo Kakechan, were so successful that Azerbaijan resorted to hiring foreign snipers to track and assassinate them. By 1994, Azerbaijan was humiliated by the decisive Armenian victory, and both parties signed a ceasefire. The ceasefire is still officially in effect today, but is rarely honored. Although there is a lack of evidence on who is to blame for being the first to disrespect the ceasefire, the sole goal of the Armenian people during the war was to secure the land of Artsakh, to defend the homes of the Armenians. Considering the fact that Armenians accomplished that goal, there would have been very little reason for Armenians to have been the first ones to violate the ceasefire, leading many to believe that Azerbaijan was the first one to violate it. Although minor skirmishes were frequent, the 4-day war in April of 2016, which resulted in Azerbaijan taking a bit of land, is another example of the conflict escalating in violation of the ceasefire. However, the fighting in these last few days has proved to be the worst fighting Artsakh has had since the early 90s. Azerbaijan has been fighting with no regard for human life, bombing Stepanakert, Artsakh's capital, and various other attacks that have claimed civilian life. The conflict is even further escalated when considering that this time, Azerbaijan attacked not only the region of Artsakh, but regions located in what is officially recognized as Armenia. In addition, Turkey has joined in the conflict, helping Azerbaijan carry out air assaults against Armenia, which warrants a response from Armenia's defensive ally, Russia. Azerbaijan's military equipment far exceeds that of Armenia, as they have access to modern technology supplied by Turkey and advanced drones that are used in kamikaze attacks targeting Armenians, which are supplied by Israel, while Armenia is only limited to equipment from the Soviet era and whatever vehicles Armenians capture from Azeris. Among its army, Azerbaijan has the military support of the Grey Wolves, a Turkish paramilitary terrorist organization, a Ukrainian mercenary air force, Chechen militants, Pakistani militants, Turkey-backed mercenary jihadists from Syria, as well as more jihadists from Libya, Afghan jihadists known as Hezb-e Islami, and even ISIS, which are sent to Azerbaijan by Turkey, while Armenia relies only on its own people, volunteers, and a defense agreement with Russia, which Armenia has not even called upon yet. Even the president of Artsakh, Araik Harutyunyan, voluntarily joined his fellow Armenians on the front line to defend his homeland, as well as the son of Nikol Pashinyan, Armenia's prime minister. To this day, the world goes by the work of Stalin, an evil dictator who purposely caused land disputes to turn nation against nation when it comes to official ownership of Artsakh, which is why Artsakh is officially recognized as a part of Azerbaijan. All we can hope for is that the voices of Artsakh are heard, and that Azerbaijan puts an end to their repeated unlawful assaults against the Armenian people.
Yeah, one quick thing on what Mr. Schiff said in response to his last answer. Those Syrian mercenaries that are now fighting against the Armenians were paid for by the Obama administration, and Mr. Schiff signed off on that bill. So you might want to find out why your buddies in the Syrian mercenaries are now fighting the great Armenians. With respect, firmly stand with the people, the brave, proud, and strong Christian people of Armenia, and I support their effort to have control over their ancestral lands of Artsakh. And right now, what we're witnessing there, and I've done 2 radio shows on this, on KABC Radio, and by the way, thank you KABC for covering this debate, and One American News, by the way. We have to stop, we have to put every kind of pressure we can on Turkey. They're a NATO country. I know how they got into NATO. Frankly, I have serious questions about why they're still in NATO. They're clearly fueling the Azerbaijani attacks on the Armenians. We should be stopping military sales to Turkey. We should be stopping military sales to the Azeris. We should be cutting military aid, and we should be doing whatever we can to protect the Armenian people from the attacks they're going through right now. All you got to do is look at history. Go back to 1915 when 1.5 million souls were slaughtered by the Ottomans. It was the Armenian genocide. And this country must finally and forever, recognize the Armenian genocide. I want the president to sign that recognition.